Republicans are full of praise for former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice this morning after her speech over the weekend at a meeting where Mitt Romney met with dozens of major campaign donors.
Condoleezza Rice was very, very well received. She's just an exceptional speaker when she speaks from her heart without notes. She's just a master of the knowledge in her background and perspective.
Condoleezza Rice is with us now from Washington. Secretary Rice, good morning.
Good morning.
Here is what this press has been saying, or what people at the weekend retreat have said. Spectacular. She rocked it. An impassioned plea. What did you say?
Well, I talked about the need for American leadership. I talked about the importance of the United States to a more peaceful world, a world that has been quite turbulent in recent years and needs a strong American anchor. But I also talked about the essence of America, and I think that perhaps that is what people resonated with, that this is a country in which people really believe that it doesn't matter where you came from, it matters where you're going, and that we really need to concentrate on rebuilding our strengths as a country of immigrants, a country where it doesn't really matter your zip code so that you can get a good education, and the need to really pay attention to those strengths so that we can lead from an internal strength at home.
This was a retreat with and about Governor Romney. Will his foreign policy be different than the foreign policy of President Obama?
What Mitt Romney will bring to the presidency, and I believe he would be a very good president, is he will bring first and foremost an understanding of the role that the United States has to play in the world. He understands the essence of an America that believes in free markets and free peoples, and that has really been the reason that the world has been moving toward more prosperity and greater freedom. He understands that we need to reassure our friends that indeed we're going to be with them, and that our foes have to respect and indeed fear us. And because he has those principles and those values, he'll be very good on the foreign policy stage.
So what part of President Obama's foreign policy and the decisions he has taken do you disagree with?
Look, I have said, and I continue to say, I understand how hard it is to be in the White House, how hard it is to be in the State Department, but I do think we need a greater, more assertive America in the world. When things are moving in many directions as they are after great shocks to the system like 9/11 and the global financial and economic crisis, and now the positive shock of people insisting on their democratic rights, the United States can't lead from behind. The United States has to have a view. It has to gather people around that view, and frankly, I think we need to do more of that. And the last several years, I think we've been lacking on that front.
But that's the very point that people who look at the president on foreign policy say, including some critics from within his own party, say he has extended and drilled down on the Bush foreign policy, especially in terms of terrorism.
Well, there's no doubt that we have benefited from really now 10 years of relative consistency when it comes to the war on terror. President Bush left a lot of tools to President Obama. He left him a military and intelligence integration that has worked extremely well, exceedingly well, as we were able to even bring bin Laden to justice. There's no doubt that we've had consistency in the war on terror, and that is something to be grateful for, because I think it is why we have not been struck again. But there is more than terrorism in foreign policy, and I would just make 2 points. First, we really do need to have a view. It cannot be the lowest common denominator view of the international community through the Security Council of the UN. And secondly, this really counts on rebuilding our strengths at home. And so the state of our economy, continuing to borrow money that we cannot afford, entitlements, if we don't get a handle on who we are at home and fix our multiple problems at home, then we will not lead. And so this election is rightly about the state of the economy as a source of strength for international leadership.
Madam Secretary, let's talk about a couple of items in the news, specifically starting with Russia and, of course, the impact on Syria there. In your experience with Vladimir Putin, how do you get Russia to come to the table on this?
Well, you may not be able to get Russia to come to the table. The Russians have a view under Vladimir Putin that is really a kind of 19th century view of foreign policy. You intimidate your neighbors, as they tried to do with Georgia. They have a fast friend, they believe, in Bashar al-Assad. Syria has been the center of Russia's Middle Eastern policy, and I'm not certain that we can bring them. They ought to be embarrassed by being a part of the support structure for a dictator who is murdering his own people every day. But if they are not, then we have to make alliance with those who wish to see Bashar al-Assad overthrown. That's most of the states in the region, and including some powerful states like Turkey that are now beginning to suffer from the instability that Turkey is bringing. We saw this downing of Turkish aircraft, and so let's make alliance with those who understand that Syria will never be stable with Bashar al-Assad in place. Let's help the opposition to organize, and Syria will be better off with Bashar al-Assad, and so will the Middle East.
You say help the opposition to organize. Do you support, like Senator McCain does, arming the rebels?
Well, the first thing that you've got to do is to get a political structure that can be on the ground and running when Assad is finally gone. And a lot of work has to be done to bring that political alliance together. And in fact, the Turks have been very active in doing so. Yes, I do believe that you're probably ultimately going to have to arm the opposition, maybe even today, because people are being armed. Assad is being armed by the Russians and by the Iranians. So it's not as if people are not being armed. And even the opposition is receiving some arms from regional players, some of whom have their own agenda in Syria. And the United States, Europe, those of us, I think, who want to see a stable and ultimately democratic Syria are going to have to work with the opposition and probably indeed arm them within a political framework, rather than what I fear is happening now, which is that various fragments are being armed in accordance with regional players who have different agendas.
Let me bring this back full circle to politics. We started at the retreat. Because of your speech, there has been some groundswell of enthusiasm about the possibility, because of your experience, because of your sense of resonance with America, that you might be the ideal running mate for Mitt Romney.
Charlie, I didn't run for student council president. I don't see myself in any way in elective office. I love policy. I'm not particularly fond of politics. Governor Romney's going to make a great choice for vice president. He's got terrific judgment.
But you're
There's
not saying you would
deep
turn him
bench on
down.
the Republican side.
You are not saying you would turn him down if he calls, are you?
I'm saying there is no way that I will do this, because it's really not me. I know my strengths, and Governor Romney needs to find someone who wants to run with him. There are many people who will do it very, very well, and I'll support the ticket.
That's a no, or it's not going to happen?
It's not going to happen. And no.
Thank you very much.